No reason to waste time, we're diving right in. I even remember when I heard porcupines can shoot their quills. Well, wouldn't that be a sight? But no, they can't do this. They just detach very, very easily when touched or grazed. They have about 30,000 quills and one of the best lines of defense in nature. Camels store water in their humps. Their humps store fat, which provides them with energy to travel long distances. On top of them being incredibly efficient in the amount of water they use per day, partially due to the unique shape of their blood cells, which are oval. They don't sweat like humans do, and their metabolism lowers at night so they could go nearly a week without a drink. A duck's quack doesn't echo. Although it's very quiet, it does exist. And it's especially harder to hear because you usually see ducks in an open water area. It's certainly understandable how this myth got started, but in 2003, an acoustic research experiment was carried out by Trevor Cox at the University of Salford in Greater Manchester, and he, among other scientists these days, have put this legend to rest. Have you ever heard? You're blind as a bat. That brings us to number 7. Bats are blind. Again, false. Some bats can see just as well as humans. They do have poor eyesight, that's true. They have small eyes and sensitive vision, but they're certainly not blind. This misconception might have started because they use echolocation to navigate and hunt. Therefore, you could assume that they just can't see. Well, the good news for them is they do have vision. Brings us to number 6. Ostriches will bury their heads in the sand when they're scared or threatened. I think how this one got started was they might have been seen digging holes for their nests or putting their heads in the ground or a hole to turn their eggs like they have to do several times a day, but they simply just don't bury their heads in the sand. And just like us, they wouldn't be able to breathe. Goldfish have a 3-second memory span. Many behavioral studies have shown that goldfish can recognize their owner's presence, can operate tiny levers, associate sounds with feeding times, and much more. All of which requires a memory span greater than 3 seconds, so they actually deserve more credit. They have a memory span lengthier than 3 seconds. I think we all heard this one. Mother birds will reject their babies if they've been touched by humans. Maybe not a bad misconception to have. That'll keep people away from handling eggs and birds and everything like that. But again, not true. Most songbirds don't notice a human scent. They have a relatively poorly developed sense of smell and are unlikely to readily abandon their young. It's human disturbance, not touch, that can scare a mother bird off. Touching a frog or a toad will give you warts. While frogs and toads have bumps on their skin that may look like warts, warts are caused by a human virus. There's no way then that it can come from them. Toads do have parotoid glands behind the ears as a defense, and it could irritate your skin, so you shouldn't try to handle them regardless. And because of the acidity and sweat and the natural oils our hands produce, you shouldn't handle them or creatures like salamanders and stuff like that anyway. I think we all might have heard, Daddy Longlegs are the most venomous spiders, or good thing Daddy Longlegs don't have fangs that can bite us because they're the most poisonous. Daddy Longlegs is the nickname most commonly given to a few familiar critters, most commonly to the quote-unquote spider, the harvestman. But as I just learned, even crane flies even get called Daddy Longlegs. But they're not even spiders. These harvestmen are another type of arachnid. They don't have venom glands, and they don't even produce silk or make webs. They don't have fangs, and they have one main body part instead of 2. And finally, bulls are enraged by the color red. Bulls are actually colorblind to red. The real reason they're getting irritated in a bullfight is because all the movements the matador is making with the red cloth. Bulls and other cattle are dichromats. They can only perceive 2 color pigments, whereas us humans can perceive 3 color pigments. We're trichromats. We can see blues and greens and reds. Thanks for joining us today as we put a few more myths to rest. Next time you hear someone say, oh, camels store water in their humps, or you're blind as a bat, or don't go touching that frog, you'll get warts, you can be like, well, not so much. Now you got something to talk about. See you on the next one.